Hi guys, and welcome back. My name is Antonio Seri, from crrntn.com. Continuing the series Hollywood movie title, today we realize The Dark Knight Rises animation. In the first part in Cinema 4D we will create the whole scene, we'll add some buildings, in order to build and form the shape of the Batman logo. Then insert the debris falling from the skyscrapers, and during the animation of the camera up, we'll simulate the effect of camera shake. In the second part, we will create in After Effects the final revelation of the logo, and we'll put all the effects to enhance this incredible animation. OK. Open the file Start in Cinema 4D. As we can see, I have already designed the emblem of the Dark Knight, using as a reference, a frame from the original video. The axes are used as a reference in the scene. The first rectangle represents the view of the camera, while the second largest rectangle represents the final size of the video rendering. You'll see why it's larger. Before you begin, we set the parameters of our project. Follow me on video. Frame rate to 24, the length of the animation is 230. We set also the values in the render panel. In this case the size of our project has a height of 816 pixels. Select the group of start paths, and insert in the coordinates panel, on rotation P, 90 degrees. In this project, we will put all the elements with the vertical arrangement, so it will be easier to set up some dynamic modules of particles, that use the force of gravity. First, we create a base of extrusion, which will serve as an optical reference for the distribution of the buildings. Duplicate the path of the logo, along with the rectangle camera render, group it with Command, Connect Delete. Disable the visibility of all the other layers, and apply on it, Extrude tool. Insert depth, -1920. And on subdivision, 5. This will serve as an optical reference height. We continue with the insertion of the camera. Resets all values to 0, except for the rotation P with value, 90 degrees, and the Y position to -1920. Activate the camera display. OK. This is our visual reference, to build and understand the creation of this project. Very cool. On it, activate the X-ray check. proceed with the insertion technique of skyscrapers. First, I want to make a small introduction. These skyscrapers are very tall, narrow, and have all the windows very large. So that you know better, I'll show you in detail. A 3D model of a building used in this project. This is a commercial 3D model of a skyscraper, with the windows and the structure to scale. This is not good for our work. I had to modify the model to fit the purpose of our animation, as I already said, to be very long and narrow, with large windows. This is very important. Okay, back to our main file. And import the skyscraper to be distributed in our path. Duplicate the path of the logo and rename with the suffix buildings path. Insert, in the coordinates panel, position Y, -1920. As we can see, in this way, is positioned at the beginning of our optical reference. Insert the cloner tool. Insert a cube in our scene. This cube will be need to apply the technique to distribution of the skyscrapers along the path, rename it all. In the cloner tool, we set the mode to object and drag our cube null on the line, object. We set also distribution, on volume, and set the count value, to 1. Now, apply a MoGraph effector. Activate the cloner layer and apply the effector, spline. In the effector panel, drag the paths where we want to distribute the skyscraper, in spline line. Finally, we drag our 3D model inside the cloner tool. Now, if we increase the count value, as if by magic, will be gradually included all the buildings along the path. Fabulous! This technique is amazing, and saves much time. If you want to distribute skyscrapers linearly without rotation, we must disable the check, rotation, on parameters panel of spline effector. If you activate the camera visibility, we can better understand the final result. Obviously, disable the layer, no cube. We make a render to see our result. The effect is very nice, but it soon becomes clear that the one model was repeated. To improve the result, my advice is to use multiple models of skyscrapers, in order to make the scene more interesting. Are sufficient from 4 to 6 models. As you can see now, distributing different models with different heights, the result is improved. But if you want to get a result even more incredible, follow this advice. Find the right distribution on your path. If you do not get 100% of what you like, you can extract only a part. Pressing the C key on the keyboard, transform the layer cloner in a simple group, where you can delete what you do not need. Of course, do not forget, first of all, duplicate the layer cloner, so apply other distributions and block with the letter C, the other missing parts, on your path. Compose with more steps all other parts of the path. In my project, I use 3 distributions: central, right, and finally left. Then, on some models, I applied a manual positioning, for the final visual effect you are seeing. I really like, it's good for me. To make it more interesting, the final part of camera animation, I also changed the heights. We complete with entering a light, type, area. With a rotation P, -90 degrees, and with the RGB color, 155, 205, 255. The size X, 1090. And Y, 345. In this way, the rectangular light shape incorporates the entire area inside the buildings. Activate the shadow maps check, and make a render to see the result. The light intensity is too high, we bring the value from 100 to 72. Now the result is good, but will be improved on After Effects, during styling compositing. Proceed with the animation of the camera. Activate a keyframes on rotation H, and position Y, on frame 100. Let's go to frame 0, and insert, -2100 and -15. Finally, in frame 230, insert 300. As we can see, the camera does not move well. Open the F-Curves panel, modify and correct the orientation of the curves. Follow me on video. In order to modify only a handle, just press the Shift key during correction. The distribution of this form creates a camera movement slow during the first part, and a gradual acceleration in the final part. Cool. Let's save our project, with the suffix, animation. Proceed with the creation of the debris that fall down from the skyscrapers. We have different types of debris. Some central, other lateral, as a linear fountain. Do not forget that there are ledges in the form of construction that explode during the camera animation. There isn't a sequential logic for this type of effect, you can create a random sequences. I will show you the types of debris and how you can leverage the dynamic modules of Cinema 4D, to simulate the fall of real objects, which have a collision between them. All this is very interesting. The technique that I show you, is only the basis in order to experience many creative solutions. Okay, let's start by inserting the object's basic solids. A cube with size 20. A sphere with the radius of the same size of the cube. A pyramid. And finally a platonic polyhedron. Drag the 4 elements inside the tool cloner. Activate the grid array mode. With random disposition. Follow me on video, for the basic parameters. In this way, applying the cloner tool, with a few simple steps, you can quickly apply changes to objects, and to be immediately updated in all the clones. We apply a red color, the better to see this step. To create a dynamic movement of the debris, we insert a plan for the bounce. We place it down and with a slight tilt. Insert on both layer the dynamics tags. If you press play, we see that both objects fall. We modify on the plan, on dynamic module in the collision panel, activating static mesh. In this way, the plan remains firm and works as a rigid object. But we see that the cloner whole group moves and behaves as a single object. You can modify its behavior in the collision panel with the parameter individual elements active to all. Great, now all embedded objects works like unique items, but are actually created with the calculation of cloning. Now, we make the effect even more interesting by applying on each of them the plugin 3C. With a subdivision to 10. In this way, each item has been crumbled into 10 pieces. Applying the objects in this way, inside the instrument cloner, we obtain this result. Wonderful, we have the effect that interests us. You can adjust the intensity of debris, increasing the number of clones. Now, we must implement a system to animate all the debris. In what way? Follow me, I show you how on video. You must make sure that the plan is able to contain all the objects to make them fall in one direction. You can also create a simple chute. Great, with this little trick you can control and know exactly where they all fall debris. Simple and easy to replicate. The effect is very cool. Obviously during the camera animation, after we place the shoots, disable their visibility. I show you how to position the debris module in our scene so as to be hidden. View the result activating the camera animation. In this way, you get a very interesting effect. This can be applied during the first part of our animation. As you already know, our animated scene already begins with the falling debris. To achieve this, we have to separate the different debris to be included in our animation, and compose all elements in After Effects in the styling compositing. Obviously, due to the movement of falling objects, you can synchronize more precisely the effect of the camera shake. If you want more debris falling in the scene, we increase the number of clones. If we want to give to our scene a dynamic effect, we must make the walls of skyscrapers rigid objects for the bounce. In this case, we must convert our extrusion in a polygonal object, and apply to it a copy of the Plan Dynamics tag. If we reproduce the sequence, we see that bounce off objects on the wall, and create a more interesting result. To apply and to set the parameters of Dynamics module, to obtain the final effect that you like. As I said, you can to insert more shoots simultaneously, but must not start all at the same time. You can decide for each shoot a predetermined keyframe by applying a keyframe on the parameter enabled in the panel dynamics. With this simple step, you can create predefined sequences. Cool. I love it. However, if we wish to obtain a more linear effect, with a fall down, change the type of shoot, with a funnel, obtained from the cone object. In this case I applied a very high number of clones, to have a constant presence of falling debris. You can add the ledges obtained from models of buildings that explode during our sequence. In this case, in the cube object, I applied the treehouse plug-in, with a subdivision of 300. Of course, we can decide, when the explosion occurs, activating the parameter enabled in the keyframe we need. If the explosion tool effect is not applied, the result without a surface bounce is useless. You can simulate the dynamics of an explosion without using a surface bounce, applying inside the dynamic module, in the main panel, active check, custom velocity initial. With these values it creates a small jump top forward, and is perfect to simulate an explosion followed by falling debris. The value 400, create this movement. You can experiment with other numerical parameters, you will get different results. Awesome! The two materials that are generated automatically from treehouse, to the inside and outside part, will allow you to quickly insert the materials of cement, more suitable to your project. I'll show you how you can position the ledge of the building in the animated sequence. After placing it in the scene, we see the result of the explosion. The most important value is the parameter of gravity. It is in the document panel, on Dynamics. Right now the value is set to 1000, but if we change this value to 10, the sequence of the explosion, it slows down. Wow, very nice. These are videos rendered that need on After Effects. File 1 is obtained with the area light. The file 2 is obtained with Omni Light, only skyscrapers. The 3 files, only windows. File 4 is a mask. Finally, files with different dynamics of debris. In Cinema 4D folder, find a file with one model skyscraper and the examples of debris, which I explained in the tutorial. This is our files in After Effects. We will see in detail the various layer. It is a project of styling compositing, very simple. The project is composed of 365 frames. The sky is obtained with the basic fractal noise. Light blue color, with these parameters. The frames follow the camera animation of Cinema 4D, with a fade-in of brightness on white color. The layer only skyscrapers with a mask applied to it, which allows you to see the sky. I applied an Triton effect, with midtones, with this color, to get this ambient color gradient. Above, we apply the layer area lights. To apply the mask properly, activate the track mat on Luma. The area light layer, in exclusion mode. emphasizes the shadows. We apply an exposure and effect levels, to make the image darker. On layer-only windows I applied a glow effect. To achieve this white effect I created a pre-composed. Where, with the linear color key effect I deleted the background black. To soften the edges I applied a matching softness with value 18. And I set attack matte alpha on a white solid in the layer below. This layer is in linear dodge mode. This is the result. To create the white halo in the final part of the skyscrapers, I created a pre-composed with a mask, and with the linear color key effect I deleted the white background. And a white color with a color overlay layer style. To create a halo light, I used a box blur with radius 90. The layer is in lighten mode. To create this incredible effect, I duplicated the pre-composed mask layer. And I applied a scale. With value, 160%. And a simple choker, with value 6.40, and box blur to 13. Finally, radial blur, to create a zoom blur effect, at the end of the animation of the camera. Obviously, these values can be changed as you like. To create the smoke effect I applied a track matte on Luma. On a duplicate of fractal noise of sky layer. This is the result. Wow, a very realistic smoke nebula. You can change the opacity as you like. The vignette layer with black color, with a feather to 180. Also in this case enter the opacity that you like. For the insertion of the lens flares, I used optical flares. I placed it the center of the scene, with the circular reflections aligned with the perspective of the skyscrapers. In final part I applied an interpolation of opacity, to go to the second part of the animation. The lens flare is positioned gradually vertically, and is accompanied by an increase of brightness value. This is the lens flare used. Finally I applied a color with this RGB value. The layer Color Creams has a simple interpolation of opacity and color, taken from the original video. With these values, all the layers of debris made in Cinema 4D are in darken mode. And distributed in sequence. You can distribute them however you like. On the last layer of debris I applied an interpolation of zoom blur, to follow the acceleration of camera movement at the end. With maximum value to 33. For the to text I applied an opacity animation and tracking amount. The font used is a Trade Gothic Bold. It's a commercial font. We complete with two black lines above and below. To create the camera shake following the distribution of debris, you must create a sequence of frames fast. Where we modify the position of a few pixels and apply a directional blur. This is my distribution scheme. You can experiment other combinations. Finally, I added the audio file. Now, we can proceed with the rendering. This is the result of our animation. Wow! Very cool. Great. I remind you the next appointment for the tutorial on the movie titled The Three Musketeers. Another animation not to be missed. I hope this tutorial has been to your liking. By Antonio Seri of crrntn.com. Cheers.